Hello, welcome to another Burgundy with Tweedy video. I have trudged around the heath, and in fact I came onto the heath from a different entrance today, and I trudged around for a while trying to find an alternative spot. And despite this sort of gloomy weekday afternoon, it is surprisingly hard to get away from other humans. There are always some other people I could see off in the distance, and I just really wanted a spot where I could hide, and what was I saying the other day, I wanted to sort of melt into the woods. Anywho, I thought I would try an actual bricks and mortar shop. I went to Nicolas. I remember them being kind of interesting when I was in France earlier this year on holiday. Although a French friend of mine describes them as a very down market wine shop. I don't know, I'm sure by the time that's translated to England, they're not particularly. I think most people would probably consider them a little bit posh. So this is Gevrey Chambertin. It is a 2018. They had, I mean, a good dozen or so different Burgundies to choose from. A lot of it from Beaune, as is often the way, and pretty much anything that came from the Côte de Nuit that I might consider actually drinking was either of a sort of worryingly recent vintage that put me off, or just pretty expensive. This is their Cuvée de la Cabotte, but it is essentially just a village level Gevrey Chambertin. The producer is called, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, Javelier, Laurin. Never had anything from this producer before. I get the sense that this is, at least this particular wine, is probably sold exclusively by Nicolas. I couldn't find much about it on the web. Got a fairly deep, darkish sort of a colour. I'm anticipating, based on colour alone, that we're going to see some dark berry fruits here. That always seems to be the way. The darker the colour, the more likely, I mean, this is probably psychological, isn't it? But the darker the colour of the wine, the more likely to find blackcurrant and or sort of plummy notes rather than cherry. But let's give it a whiff. Perhaps that is more, just talking nonsense, perhaps that is more cherry-like on the nose. But as always, there's some nuance to that particular kind of cherry that I lack the vocabulary to describe. It's nice, there's a nice nose. That is very fruity on the palate. Lovely. Not obviously Gevrey Chambertin in style. That's something I would associate more with Nuits Saint-Georges that everybody else seems to disagree with. But again, as I always feel, I have to caveat that with I'm used to Nuits Saint-Georges mostly from a particular producer called Javelier, who makes a very fruit-forward style. But this is a very fruit-forward Gevrey Chambertin, and I like that style. I'm pretty happy with that. It is rich. It's fruity. There is something slightly perfumey in there. Quite boozy actually. It's 14% ABV, I think it said, but it really comes across as pretty, you know, almost like there's a tiny hint of something liqueur-y in there. Not so much on the nose, more on the palate. Nice acidity, gentle tannins, little bit of tannic lingering there, a little bit of sort of peppery sort of tingle. Bit different from typical Gevrey Chambertin. I'm not even sure. I've had so many Gevrey Chambertins now, I have no idea what typical Gevrey Chambertin is. It's a surprise every time, and that's part of the joy of it. But yeah, that's pretty good. Cherry, rich and fruity, a little bit of tannic, peppery tingle. Cheers.